This is it's more a dialogue, starting a dialogue on organizational culture. We have incorporated this within our Clickstra platform as part of our HR time management systems. So within our time management, we can monitor this, um, but I want to explain what do you mean by this. So if there's an uh, employee working with your staff, there are extremes of handling this. You have your theory X, theory Y. Broadly, the theory X says you trust your staff, whereas theory Y says you don't trust your staff. So theory X you don't trust, I'm sorry, and theory Y is when you do trust your staff broadly. And there are any number of gray shades between two extremes in terms of how everything is controlled from physical access, virtual access, security systems, who has access to what information is available to the employees, what is not. So it's an extremely complicated, very large uh, uh, set of parameters that if you need to monitor with this. But a first simple basic parameter is how we track timesheets or time. So 9 to 5 is broadly what I would say is the time that you're paid for. So you have your Factories Act, your Shops and Establishment Act in India. Every country has a certain number of hours, 35 hours. There is a time output. You could start looking at other types of output and monitoring other output from a person and just pay on the output, which is what happens in contract manufacturing or any if somebody is not an employee, you're primarily looking at the output and you're paying for that output. Now, I'm assuming for the moment for this discussion that we are talking only about full-time staff with you. Now, again, the organizational culture is affected by the country you're in. If you're in the US, for example, you cannot ask a whole set of questions. There are legal issues, uh, to bias issues, to a whole range of reasons why you cannot ask. Certain cultures, you can ask a set of questions. In other countries, you cannot ask for a set of questions. But broadly, we have all the options within Plextra to be able to monitor what you want. So this is just a broad example saying that between 9 and 5, I can track the time of my staff, Mondays to Fridays, as to what they do, what access they have, can they have internet, not have internet. But it's extremely important to track what we call the 5 to 9. What happens on Saturday, Sundays? Okay, what happens outside? Now, this is very interesting because while we had this for many years, our Plextra platform has been around for more than 15 years, and we have monitored some aspects of this at some period, some time with some companies. It's become extremely relevant in the current pandemic, work from home, and will apply even in a post-COVID. Once we have got past this COVID, we will still have this issue because while at this point in time there is everybody's working from home as a survival of the business and everything is being allowed, but are people working at home? What's happening there? I mean, are they fudging it? The schools, education, examination systems are facing that. What's the security? Do you see the person who is taking the test? Is the hacking happening? So there's layers and layers of problems the moment you go into an antitrust. And there are layers and layers of issues even in a trust, because if you're on a trust basis, you assume the other person is following the law, the rules, policies, bylaws, whatever you have established as the norm. You still have to put in place a standard operating procedure for people working from home. So an SOP signed up on a contractual level, SOP that they trained to operate at the SOP given to them, and also whether it's being adhered to. Now, if the moment you go into a non-trust, you're trying to audit, make sure that it's being done. You have to monitor it at some level, and if it's a trust-based, then you're going to still have to do some of these things going forward. So the first thing is to know what's happening. A timesheet where uh, it could be on a voluntary basis, disclosure, non-disclosure, whatever suits the organization, but that you start getting to know what the other person is all about in your internal stuff. Of course, in some cultures, I mean, very broadly defining it without getting into some bias issues, some countries, uh, you stay with the company for your whole career, whole your life. So everybody knows about you, knows about your spouse, knows about your children. Whereas in certain cultures, that may be a taboo, asking about the children, asking about what else is your likes and dislikes. But if you're going to work from home, I think the work overlap has become really blurred. And if you don't start bringing that distinction, it's going to be an issue. So which parameters will you monitor? Which activities overlap between home and office was always an issue. We had picnics, we had cultural activities, you had clubs within housing colonies. There were a range of social interaction, even off work, which was endorsed and supported and even paid for sometimes by businesses. That's going to change. So first thing is to be able to have data, 168 hours in a week. Okay, so 9 to 5, you have 48 hours or 40 hours that you're paying for and you're doing that. But knowing what they do, what your staff does the rest of the time is going to be critical to helping them, supporting them, encouraging them with what you do. But you need to have data. You have to start collecting and be able to that. It can be on a voluntary self-service basis. So primarily what we are doing is even the 40 hours of work hours can be self-service, but the other 128 hours can also be self-service. You may maybe people are sleeping less, so you maybe give them help on how to sleep better, handle stress better. You may give loans if they are in a particular problem. And if there are gambling or other issues or other triggers that is triggering, I mean, drug addiction, liquor, you may be able to help them. So the whole thing should be approached in a positive and way, and it can help in building the organizational culture. We're talking primarily about all of everyone being an employee in this setup. If it's outside staff, customers, vendors, that would be a very different approach. But this is primarily for your full-time staff. So think about it. We have an entire platform to allow this to happen under Klextra, and you can talk to us.